Hello again. It's uh it's a bit late for this one because of some unforeseen circumstances. Friday was not normal in the typical sense. Friday was the first day back. Uh Based off the way I was presenting it and the way I understood it, I thought the trip that we were going to be having would be pretty much strictly business. We go there for the ceremony, pay our dues, do our respects, you know, do that type of thing. That was not what happened at all. I didn't realize I was getting dragged on a fucking vacation from my mom. And I guess I got lucky because, uh, in quotes, because my mom's truck experienced some interesting technical issues while we were going through Yosemite National Park. I don't have a problem with Yosemite. As a matter of fact, I'd go out of my way to say I love Yosemite. But I think I hate my sister and my mom. Because holy fuck, I cannot stand sitting in a goddamn car with those two ever. I fucking despise them. I specifically had to sit through most of this trip with earbuds in, otherwise, I would have lost my shit and turned into a raging ball of molten flesh. Because I swear to God, they inspire the worst in me. They are insufferable. No matter, even if I did try to bring up the mood by sharing a video of something or I don't know, just talking a little more, I don't think it would have helped. I think it would have been so easy to show how much I actually fucking despised them. Because holy shit, I have never met a more hypocritical duo in my entire fucking life. Well, okay, my mom's not the hypocrite here, but my sister is. Holy shit, she's awful. She's always fucking whining about how my generation is complaining and whatnot. I've never heard somebody whine more. Now, to give props to her, she isn't as bad as my mom, but the bar's on the fucking floor, really. My mom complains at the slightest inconvenience regularly, and when things are suddenly incredibly negative because of the mistakes she made, she starts breaking down. I'm not saying she's not supposed to be emotionally vulnerable, but frankly, just because we're acting prickly towards each other because a trip turned awful doesn't justify you fucking sobbing in the middle of a hotel room. It makes me wonder how I came to be, because I certainly wasn't raised by my dad, I certainly wasn't raised by my mom, and I certainly wasn't raised by the rest of my family. There are some things that I can point out as an influence from them, but I swear to God, I I feel so unbelievably different from them. They feel completely alien to me. It is unreal how much they don't feel like me at all. It's only the superficial shit. But when it comes down to the core of our character, we couldn't be really any that different. It's an interesting observation. And the trip in particular really exposed how much other people's emotions can get to me. I just kind of absorb them and consolidate them into myself, especially if I'm not actively engaging in something. And holy fuck, I have a disgusting capacity for storing someone's anger to a point where I am unfathomably angry. We had maybe two interactions on the whole trip through Yosemite, me and my sister, and let me tell you, they were the most bare bones thing because I didn't want to speak with her. And then we get to the hotel, and I do my usual shtick. I think I've talked about it before, but I have an extreme aversion to snoring, and I literally haven't met anyone worse than my mom. I don't know how she does it. She's so exceptional at being the worst snorer in all of fucking existence. It's legitimately commendable. She is like the one thing that stops me from ever being able to sleep, I guess. It is impressive how well she stops me from being able to sleep. That I I usually resort to going into the bathroom as a solution because go in there, wear some earplugs, and everything will be fine because I can't fucking hear her anymore. Sometimes I still hear her, and that is mostly because of the way the bathroom is made. Like on the base that we were at, the door had fucking vents on it for some reason. Why does a metal door need to have fucking vents on it for a bathroom? It was a really weird design choice. But some doors are just too thin, which it is what it is. But uh, it's just it's one of those weaknesses that grates at me as a form of context. And I was setting up my thing in the bathroom because there's no way I was sleeping in the same room with my mom, and apparently my niece, who had a really bad night and was snoring excessively, which I didn't believe her. I think Kelly, my sister, is exaggerating way out of her breadth, and she's a hell of a lot more like me than she likes to think. Although, I usually keep my complaining to more private avenues, like this, or personal conversations, instead of screaming them at the world, like my mom and my sister do. And when I went in there, my usual thing that they know about, she then proceeded to bitch and moan about how, what if we have to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night? And I just thought to myself, what a fucking non issue. My mom wakes me up regularly when she has to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night. Fuck, the night before, she woke me up. And then, because she was effectively up for the rest of the day, I could sleep on the actual bed. It really wasn't an issue. This was business as usual. And she was fucking crying about how she didn't have this luxury. There were three ways to approach this. One, go to the bathroom before you go to sleep. Two, wake me up in the middle of the fucking night. I'm not gonna complain. You gotta go to the bathroom. Nature's calling. It is what it is. Will I be peeved that I got woke up? Sure. But it is what it is. I'm not gonna hold it against you. And three, fucking hold it in until the morning. The first person who woke me up was my mom, who needed to go to the bathroom in the morning. And then I slept on her bed because nobody else was snoring. And she made such a big deal out of it to the point of, if I have to go to the bed in the middle of the night, I'm gonna kick you. Okay, fucking do it. It's unfathomable how unfucking believably cruel she can be for no reason. My bad for doing my normal shit. You know about this. This is something we joke about in the fucking family, and you're crying about it the moment you have to see it again, by the way, because this isn't the first time this has happened. And the other times, sometimes she doesn't even fucking wake me up because I'm just so deep in slumber that there's no risk of me waking up until she's already done with the fucking bathroom. She's one of the only people who's never woken me up when that shit's going on. So it's like, why? What are you doing? I wouldn't have made a big deal of it either if she didn't fucking just literally the day before this entire thing happened made it was the worst source of anger in the or was one of the sources of anger in the car that just made me want to lose my fucking shit. I get it. It's better to let your emotions out than bundle them up. But holy fuck, when you're in a car with two other people who just want to experience the fucking park, Shut up. I don't care how much the traffic sucks. I don't care how bad the people's driving is. Shut the fuck up and just try to grit and bear it. Minor shit like that. Stuff you can't control in the slightest. Stop fucking talking about it. It serves nobody any good. You get it out there, sure, but it just makes you more angry because you're the one driving and you're inevitably going to run into somebody else who is probably not going to be driving up to either the law or even your fucking standards because let me tell you, those two are incredibly hypocritical when it comes to fucking driving etiquette. They will regularly not hold themselves up to the standards of others. It is disgusting how much they fucking have this double standard for everyone else on the road. I'm understanding, because frankly, driving laws fucking blow ass. They suck. They're no good, and oftentimes people disregard them because, frankly speaking, as long as you're not too much of an asshole and trying to get people killed, you'll be fine. If anything, I think there's a sort of unofficial etiquette in California where if you are riding on somebody, the person in front of you will get over so that you can just go ahead of them. It's not that big of an issue, and every time they make such a big fucking stink about it, and it just feeds into this worsening version of myself. I legitimately made some pleads over fucking text to my friends because I felt truly and completely awful during that time. And I couldn't avoid it because I was in Yosemite National Park where there was no service. So even if I did plug my headphones in, it would just be hurting my fucking ears because I'd have them in for like, I think we were in there for at least 11 hours. And there was no music. It got to the point where like my only saving grace, just experiencing the nature of the park, which by the way, goddamn, I fucking love nature. Holy shit, that's awesome. If I could just go in on foot and just kind of exist with a couple of friends for like a month or something, oh, holy fuck, I would love to. Yosemite, it looks amazing. And holy fuck, it deserves to be experienced slowly and not rushed through. It shouldn't be treated like a fucking theme park. It is the natural wonder of the world, and we're acting like, oh, we gotta see every fucking thing. It's a whole trip. Why don't we just experience this one place? You wanted to go to another national park in California. Why don't we wait? We live in California, and that one's way closer. So why don't we take our fucking time and just sit in it? Just be quiet and fucking absorb it. And no, no, that's not what we get. My mom literally never stopped talking the entire time. I don't think we got more than 30 minutes of her being quiet throughout the whole fucking thing. And it's just awesome. Great. And I couldn't have politely asked her because the amount of anger I felt was already getting to a point where if I did start talking, my vitriol would start showing. So I decided it was better to just shut up. Just stay quiet. At the very least, I could contribute to a quiet atmosphere that they wouldn't bother to. I could, you know, try to engage with the park on its own terms. Even when they were complaining, looking out at the park and just seeing it the whole time, that was legitimately my one thing keeping me somewhat sane. And it stopped working near the end. It is infuriating. The funny part is, if we did take our time, the vehicle probably wouldn't have been screwed. We wouldn't have had that error. If we just slowed down, took shit as it was. They were waiting for me because I just kind of went down a random path. at one of the waterfalls and just kind of went around. They asked me, what's down there? Why don't you figure out yourself? Go there. Where is your. Where's that fucking explorative spirit? Where did I get it from? I can't be some fucking anomaly. You guys have to have had some level of wishing for exploration. I don't care if there's another entire half of the goddamn park to go see. We have a vehicle that we can fucking sleep in. I don't care if I have to suffer through the goddamn snoring. I'll probably just leave the vehicle in the middle of the night and sit out there and just chill. It's just. I couldn't be more different from them. In all the right ways. And it just made for this miserable experience. Ugh. I'm gonna have to make up for not doing workout on Friday, mostly just because I forgot. As I said, it was my first full day back home, so I was kind of just getting back into the groove of things. Um, oh, also, my anger was heavily augmented by the fact that it felt like my mom just didn't give a fuck that I had actual responsibilities and didn't want to go on vacation because, believe it or not, I wanted to do my schoolwork. And while I'm not going to say it's entirely her fault I didn't turn it in on time, it's definitely partially her fault because I got heavily stuck in my own head. I used Monday to do the normal stuff, and then because she misunderstood, we had to leave at like fucking 12 o'clock that night for a 7 hour long drive in this uncomfortable ass truck filled to the brim with shit and people. So naturally, I'm not going to feel very fucking great because I'm not getting any sleep. I was specifically staying up a little later to watch something I wanted to watch so that I could get like at least 2 hours of sleep because I was told we were going to be leaving at 2 o'clock. Never communicated that that plan changed, and the entire trip probably would have went a whole hell of a lot better if she just fucking told me what we were doing. But she never did. She didn't communicate with me at all. And that's my thesis for why I really don't like her. She just doesn't fucking communicate with me. Ever. And it leads to these awful scenarios where I fucking hate her more and more because she is incapable of connecting with me on in any way. Every time I try to connect with her, I'm fucking talking at her. I'm trying to engage her. I'm trying to get her to fucking speak up and engage with the conversation. And she just doesn't bite. Ever. I don't want to treat her like a goddamn toddler, but she's making it difficult for me to do that. And then every time, because she never returns my fucking thing, even though I try, I really do try, inherently I find it difficult to find the energy to ever engage with her. Because I know she's not willing to give that energy back. She thinks that buying me a fucking video game or buying me a statue from fucking One Piece is actually engaging with my hobbies. I don't want fucking physical materials. If anything, the one reason I want a game is so that I have something to talk about with my friends, myself a little bit, and her. But she won't bother. She never engages, and it is infuriating beyond belief. You have to drag her kicking and screaming for her to actually fucking engage with what you want. Otherwise, she's just gonna, wow, that's nice, and then completely forget everything you said within the next 10 minutes. Aside from that rant, that lack of communication demoralized me heavily, and it took the entirety of Friday to get me back up, as can be seen by this not being posted on Friday and instead being recorded in the middle of the 20th instead of the 19th, I was I just couldn't quite recover from that, and yeah, that emotional state made it difficult for me to rally myself to do what I need to do. I have a responsibility, and I don't want to let that down. At the very least, I can turn this in like maybe 1 or 2 days late because it's a discussion board and the second half of it is due on Sunday, but I would be lying if I said that this type of thing doesn't heavily demoralize me. I don't want this to be representative of where I'm going. I want to go further. And I haven't really been able to hop back on the wagon for my porn thing. Again, aside from forgetting to do the whole workout thing because of that, I'm just gonna make up for that, as I said. Um, I'm gonna let that be more of just a small bump in the record than it is totally representative of what's coming next. Much like how I'd like this whole thing to go over with my schoolwork. But I think for my pornography approach, I am going to go back to the whole once a week thing, where I dedicate 1 day of each week to specifically whatever my need is, and then every subsequent month I slash that. So I have it every other week. So only 2 weeks and then down to 1 week and see if I can sort of rebuild my momentum there. And if I do fail from that point, uh, I actually get back on the wagon. I don't just let my momentum fucking completely break my legs that I have to spend time in the hospital before I can keep walking again. But um, I hop back onto it as soon as not even as soon as I can. The moment I fail, I stop failing, and then um, if it's clear that that's not a particularly great way to go about it, which totally fair, that is a very tough way to do it. But if that type of structure isn't nearly as effective as I want it to be after, all that I have, I'll move back to what I had previously had going for me. So that's kind of my goal there. This video is a hell of a lot longer than my recent ones. I really had to talk about that stuff. It was infuriating, sure, but if it wasn't super clear, I had to reach an equilibrium before I started talking about something like that. It's still incredibly frustrating to me, but the simple fact of the matter is, I can't really talk about something like that in the heat of the moment without, I mean, justifiably so, in my opinion, being very emotional about it. Who the hell can? You have to be some crazy fucking monk to be able to do that shit, dude. And as much as I try to remain stoic, especially in the face of things that frustrate me on end, I can only handle so much. When I'm playing video games, I usually don't get mad until I'm well into my 20s in terms of attempts. I'm 20 years old. I'm not just fucking screaming my head off all the time. But it takes quite a few attempts and deaths and whatnot to actually get me to start uh, going because it takes some time to break down my barrier. It's not as simple as I'm failing consistently, yada yada yada. And even then, I'd say it still takes some time to break it down more before the negative effects eesh, of my own anger and rage start to rear their ugly heads. And I just can't say the same about those two in my family. I know that my niece seems to be rather closed off. Maybe not closed off. She seems to take an approach that I take where no good comes from these like little outbursts and just leave it be. Although, admittedly, She definitely did a hell of a lot more to try to alleviate the situation by being more of a presence there. But frankly, this is insufferable, and I think the only way I'm ever going to have a complaint like that heard is if I approach her with it. Because frankly, it is making me worse as a person. I truly believe that. I believe 100% that that type of shit is actively making me a worse person and is holding my mom and, by extension, my sister back from being any more than what they are. I was thinking back specifically to when my mom was crying, and I was thinking to myself, why? What does she want from us? I know what I want from her. Every time she starts snoring, one of the things I continually get angry at her about, which you'd think she'd catch on by this point, I don't want your apology, Mom. I don't want you to say I'm sorry for the same thing happening over and over again. I want you to be better. Even if it means getting a device that makes snoring less apparent, or that stops you from snoring altogether, that's fucking something. You're making a clear effort. You know that ever since I was a young little fucking baby, snoring has been like torture to me. I have cried every single time. There has been one constant in my entire existence, and it is that I have fucking hated snoring to my absolute core. And yet she's done nothing throughout all of it to alleviate it in any sense. My room has always been next to hers, and I can hear her through the walls sometimes. But she hasn't done a single thing to try and alleviate that. I'm over here trying to be better for not just myself, but the people around me. And my only role models are people who refuse to change. You can kind of see why there's a lot of pent up anger there, right? You can kind of see I'm so why I feel like it makes me a worse person. And I don't want to blow up at her. I really fucking don't. And I know I should address these issues. I'm afraid of addressing these issues. I'm afraid of having an earnest chat with her because I don't think she'll listen. I even thought about having an outburst during the ceremony because I thought that might be the only place where she'll ever listen to what I have to say. And I hope that's not the case. Because if so, that time has passed. And we're never going to talk it out. We're never going to understand each other. And she's never going to be better. And, that's very discouraging. That's why I don't do it. I'm scared. Obviously, the first step would be to overcome that dread, but I would be lying if I said I feel any form of difficulty when it comes to actually forming a connection with her. It's like if my dad required me to do all the legwork. If there's if there's one positive thing I can say about the way my dad tried to parent me, is that he oftentimes really did try to engage with the media. It's just that he and me are so fundamentally different in how we engage with a piece of media that we just couldn't reach common ground. I don't know if I haven't made this rather apparent, but especially now, but to a lesser form when I was younger, I've always enjoyed digging deep into a piece of media, even when it's not deserved of the piece of media at all. So, subtle shit and even stupid stuff. If I couldn't explain why I didn't like a movie, I was probably more likely to rewatch it or watch media discussions of it to try and understand. and supplement why I didn't. I remember watching Captain Marvel when I was a kid, and when I left the theater, I didn't remember much of the movie because it just wasn't that memorable to me, and I couldn't understand for the life of me why I didn't like the movie. So I watched other people's opinions of it, which that's a whole nother can of worms to open. But I slowly understood why I didn't really like the movie. And I kind of understood it better. And it led to me, now, who's more articulate and understanding. I'm actually rather lenient towards a lot of bad movies, so long as they're not egregiously awful like the fucking Minecraft movie. So long as they're not truly fucking horrible experiences for me where I'm literally fucking putting my face in my hand and sighing at the shit they got going on. I'm willing to give them a benefit of the doubt. I'm not a hypercritic. These are pieces of entertainment at the end of the day, and not everyone's trying to make high art. I get that. Fuck, one of my favorite movies is Parasite, a movie that I would consider high art among movies. And it's like, you'd think a guy who has that as one of their favorite movies would really be into a lot of high art stuff, but my second favorite movie is Puss in Boots and the Last Wish, and my third favorite is Dragon Ball Super Superhero. So I think my fourth favorite is Train to Busan, which three of those movies are Asian, two of which are Korean. So that's an interesting thing. But I just like a good old story. And as long as there is a form of intense humanity in that story, I'm gonna like it a lot. And of course, so long as it interests me in the premise. Sometimes, like with Squid Game Season 2, I just, I didn't really want to get into it. I feel like Squid Game ended pretty well, aside from the twist ending of the old guy. But I feel like Squid Game Season 1 ended and it wrapped up its story, so it was kind of one of those things where I didn't really want to continue the story, so I didn't. Even though it seems like it was still pretty good. I watched like the first few episodes. It just didn't really hook me because I didn't really want to see it, that's all. But there's a fundamental disconnect between my family and me. And I think the only way to bridge that fucking gap is for me to take the first step because they're not going to. Because my disposition is so fundamentally different from them. I think that's probably why my other niece left with her dad to Washington. I should probably ask her about that. I know I can get in contact with her. That might be something interesting to talk about here. Um, but yeah, hell, I can see it in the niece that's still here. There's a fundamental disconnect between us and the rest of the family. As much as my niece is able to engage with her mom, it's pretty clear that she is not, in fact, anywhere near her mom. During the trip, I was being very reductive and rather rude in that idea. I didn't fucking tell it to her. Good God, no, that was awful. But rather, I realized that she's probably doing a lot of this just to placate her mother. Because, let me tell you, her mom is what you could describe as a stereotypical Republican in the United States, and that comes with all of the negatives. You don't want to be called a stereotypical of either party, but if it were of the two, you definitely want to be called more of a stereotypical Democrat, because while you do seem kind of pathetic and annoying, at the very least, you don't really seem like a monster. But yeah, the stereotypical Republican is what I would also call my dad. And my mom. If you're not aware of politics, and you haven't been here for a bit, specifically addressing this to people watching the video, my politics are pretty extreme for the typical system in the United States. I'm I guess in comparison to them, I'd be seen as an anarchist. Really, I'm more of a socialist who advocates for just a better fucking system. I don't think capitalism has to be thrown out the window, but I do think it will have to be so it will have to be so restricted and changed that it is effectively completely different from the way we have it today. So, in my opinion, at that point, we may as well throw the whole fucking economic system out the fucking window. And yes, economics is very important to politics because that is part of the way we live life. Also, this nation was literally founded on capitalistic ideas. The fucking Puritans who came here didn't just come here for religious freedom. They were a part of a sect within England that were also a merchant class. It was an intersection of religious requirements as well as economic requirements. America fundamentally is built on its economy. That is what has come first every time. No matter what we say about liberty, equality, the right to pursue one's happiness, or justice for all, the history shows that the United States has always been economically motivated. The only time where we broke away from that economic motivation, we was when those southern states decided it was time to secede because they couldn't keep slaves anymore. It was completely economically unviable to keep slaves around, so when the North started fighting back so that it would sooner industrialize and, make a more economically viable America or US on the major playing field, things turned south. Haha. And here we are. Our economy is the backbone of our existence. It is one of the major reasons why our country even exists. And removing capitalism from the US of A is somewhat of an impossibility in my opinion. I think the United States is going to destroy itself eventually on some cyberpunk shit. And we are going to end up looking for something else because capitalism does not serve people. Never has. It serves a feeling, whereas other forms, regardless of how horribly they've been implemented, are designed for the sole purpose of serving people. And it is that fundamental idea from myself that actually alienates me completely and totally from a lot of my family. Even my sister, who's trans, has not the one on the trip with me, has some really bizarre views for a trans person. You'd think they'd be a bit more progressive, considering Republican ideology is built on the idea that you need to kill anything that is not a part of the status quo and is inherently authoritarian, but she's not. Again, I've seen the way my niece is. I don't need to talk to her on a deeper level to understand it. We're a part of the same generation. I get it. There may be some fundamental differences because of which time we grew up in, but I get it. And there's just this separation between the two of us that just, or between us and our family, that just doesn't seem like it's going to be crossed until somebody gets loud. And I have a feeling that's going to have to be me. I'm going to have to make the first ripples. I'm going to have to force my mom, who's approaching her 70s, to actually change. It's annoying to hear the adage, you can't teach an old horse new tricks. And that's because the old horse isn't willing to change. Not because the old horse can't learn. I can only hope that this old horse can. I think I've talked about how I don't want to go to Florida with her. I was actually planning to use the trip as a time to talk about it with her because we're away from home. But I wasn't told that it was going to be that we were going to be bringing two other people. I thought it was just going to be us. I thought my niece and my sister have other things to do. Apparently not. And, yeah. I don't know why, but I find it a lot harder to tackle bigger issues like this in the confines of my own home. I'm gonna have to make that change. I know I am. The world isn't gonna do it for me. And I think making that change at least will allow me to progress further, be better than who I am. It's it's one of those things that I just kind of feel is right. Also, my decision making and advocacy class that I'm taking this summer actually specifically deals in talking about things like this. The first chapter was talking about persuasion and argumentation, and it specifically tackled how stuff like this, where you need to address something but not doing it and letting it come out later, is incredibly dangerous and unhealthy for just about every human relationship. So, if the world is trying to tell me something, I think it's already told it to me, and I just got to take those first steps. So, holy fuck, this is a long one. I'm not gonna look forward to watching this back. I will see myself next time. Good God.